So good morning or good, yeah, let's try it again. Welcome back to Book It. And today, again, we're still talking with Wayne Kuhn, an award-winning author who's does workshops and has just completed a new book called It's Time to Recharge, which is basically a book all about the workshops that he does called Recharge. And we're getting down to toward the end of the book here, Wayne, but I do want to cover these last two chapters in the next couple of days, because I think these are really summing things up really nicely. And I was you and I have talked on occasion about the Big Bang Theory. There's one episode that I really like in which Sheldon is trying to learn how to be a better instructor, because he has to apparently teach some classes. And he goes to Penny for acting lessons because he says, it would be good if I could act like I cared. But Penny says, let's do some exercises to get you out of your comfort zone. And he says, why would I want to do that? It's called a comfort zone for a reason. But you've pointed out in this chapter here how there is a reason to get out of your comfort zone. I've sort of skipped on by the concept of paradigm because I think you're going to talk about it as we talk anyway. So I've just jumped ahead to the comfort zone aspect of it. But could you talk a little bit about why you think it's a good idea for people to get out of their comfort zone?
Sounds good, bud. Sounds good. Let's get out of our comfort zone. And for many of us, doing this is getting out of our comfort zone. So I remember saying, and I'm not sure who told me this, but they said that growth only happens when you're uncomfortable. And so if everything goes along smoothly in life and everything is perfectly, you don't grow. And when you think about that, it's controversy. It's those difficult times that cause you to think through things and cause you to do shifting, and really you learn and you grow from those experiences. So if we sat in our comfort zone all the time, we wouldn't grow. Now you might say, well, why do I want to grow? Well, that's a good point, because maybe you don't. Maybe you're perfectly comfortable where you are. However, growth causes stimulation. It causes a lot of change within ourselves. It's actually healthy. It's to me, I totally believe that we are physically healthier. We when we're happy with results. Growth gives us results that stimulate us to feel better. And of course, when you feel better, it exasperates and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then your energy is up and all of a sudden you're fully charged, if I can use that term.
Please do.
And so that's where embracing the uncomfortable is something that we always want to be aware of. And of course, you become a better person. You build confidence, and yeah, it's all good. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I'd like to suggest to you, Wayne, that the people who are willing to stay in their comfort zone typically don't buy books like Recharge.
That's true.
Your audience is already willing to recognize this, and I think I like the way you expanded on that. That you grow when you move out of your comfort zone, and that's important. You also talk about another metaphor which I really liked, which is the idea of opening doors.
Yes. I like that. I like the door thing. You can symbolize a door like a closed door. You can't get through, so you can't do anything with that. If it's an open door, you can walk through it into a new energy, a new opportunity, something new happening. Again, the symbolic. If you see a door and there's only a crack open, are you going to give it a push, or are you just going to look through it and just see what you can see through that crack, through that narrow vision, or give it a push to spring it open? Or if you see an open door and there's something that you don't want on the other side, something negative, something that isn't what you want, you close that door. So the symbolism of a door I find very, very good in dealing with our mindset and how we move ahead as people. And so yeah, so that's
Very
interesting.
true.
You mentioned the paradigm. I have a chapter, I believe, a whole section on paradigm. Should we expand on that a bit now, or?
Sure, let's talk about that. I like the Stephen Covey image that I read one time. He talks about, people sitting on a subway car, and the doors open, and in comes a crowd of about 4 or 5 kids and a man who just sort of sits down. The man sits down and he's sort of staring off into space, and the kids are all over the place. They're running around the car, and they're they're bumping into people and knocking people's newspapers. And finally, someone turns to the man and says, "Excuse me, sir, could you get some control over your kids? Like, they're really causing a lot of problem here." The man looks around and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess I should do something. I don't know. We just came from the hospital, and their mother just died, and I guess they don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." And Covey says, did you feel it? Did you feel the shift in your paradigm as you went from being annoyed with the man to probably a thought of, how can I help?
Right, right. Yeah.
And and to me, that's always been a very powerful image. It's not just about changing your picture of what your world around you is like. It's like what that does to you. And
Mhm,
you talk about this in your book,
mhm.
about shifting the paradigm in that fashion.
Definitely, definitely. And to me, the paradigm it comes right from the box almost, from my chapter, I think 4 or 3 or 4 there, where the paradigm is what you believe. It's all the things that make up you. And I look at Stephen Covey's example there, and I think, oh, somebody could be out there saying, kids equal excitement, equal, chaos sort of thing, and that's their paradigm. That's what they believe. And so Christmas comes, and all of a sudden I've got 6 grandchildren that are all coming together for Christmas, and I go, because my paradigm says this is chaos, rather than change that thought and say, wow, we're going to have fun. I'm going to roll on the floor, and we're going to play blocks, and we're going to build things. And so you can see how there's 2 different ways of looking at a single thing. So when you expand on that and you start to become more aware of your paradigm, and that's back to the car, that awareness of everything we do, you start to see things that your paradigm is doing automatically. You think, oh, let's try this. What if I think this way? What if I, and anything that you can shift your thoughts is a paradigm shift, whether it be small or whether it be huge. And like one of the example I use in the book is 9/11. Like, life was going along smooth, and whack, the whole country is hit by this massive shift, and all of a sudden our brain shifts, and that's major, and that causes major paradigm shift. Death in a family is major paradigm shift. A marriage breakup is major paradigm shift. So sometimes it's those major things that cause us maximum benefit. If you don't have a major shift, then you have to look for little shifts. So how can I do incremental shifts in my thought process that shift that paradigm so that I grow more in that area? So yeah, big Bob Proctor talks about paradigm. Stephen Covey talks about paradigm. So yeah, it's something that we really need to be aware of. It drives us.
I think
It's who
those
we
two
are.
illustrations, the Covey one and your point about the 9/11 changing the whole world. About a month after 9/11, I was doing a workshop down in the United States, and just passing through an airport that the previous month I'd been through and was just basically, you might have seen the occasional security guard or something. Only this time there were military personnel in full combat gear holding M16 rifles at the ready all
Yeah,
over the airport.
yeah,
And it was like, that's quite a different paradigm.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So you can see that that those, as long as we look for the growth in each shift, even though it may be a negative experience, there's always a good side. There's always something that we can grow from and celebrate. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and we were talking before about opening doors. Um, and one of the concepts that I loved in your section on opening doors, just in this context of paradigms, is the idea of welcoming opportunity.
mhm,
I like the expression "just say yes,"
mhm, mhm.
and you talk about that a little bit. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. It's if you say yes to everything, then you're going to say yes to things that'll stretch you. Now, I fully respect that there are people that say yes to too much, and they get burned out. And because you've likely heard the expression, they can't say no. So you have to have a balance in what your growth is. But whatever stretches you, I know, like we had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we're both Toastmasters, and people freeze up and are crazy scared when they're asked to speak in front of a group. So that's an example of stepping out and doing something that's really uncomfortable. I know in sales we're always faced with doing the uncomfortable, talking to that stranger, and as long as we come at it with a mindset of win, mindset of how can I help you, of growth, then I think the onset is nothing but positive. Yeah, yeah.
And when you talk about mindset, you make me think about another tool that you've introduced in this chapter, and that is the vision board.
Hmm, hmm.
I love the concept of the vision board, but could you describe it a little bit for us?
A vision board can be different things, but essentially, if you visualize a piece of Bristol board, and on it are pictures or sayings or words or visualizations of things that you want to achieve or things that motivate you. It's not always things. I remember the first time I thought of a vision board. Well, I'm going to put a motorcycle on a big house and a cruise ship and all this stuff. And I thought that's good, but I won't ever do that, sort of thing. But I remember a little word I put on my bulletin board about 5 years ago, and the word said book. And this year I finished writing my book. And I thought, I have to be careful I have to be careful what you put on your vision board. So it's all right to have things, but also focus on things that who you are and what you want to become. And sometimes people would put words on of happy, and so the idea is to have this vision board where you see it every day. And that's something too, is oftentimes we handle a vision board like some people handle goals. You write out your goals January 1st, and then you put it in the drawer here, and we never look at it again. So if you do your vision board and you put it somewhere where it's not constantly in your face, or in your face most of the time, then it's likely not going to be effective. You also want to be taking off and adding to your vision board constantly. It's just a reminder. You've heard the term pictures say 1,000 words. I think that's the way the saying goes.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a visual. And so when you see a cruise ship, you think, wow, maybe my wife and I would like to go on a cruise. So right away, where would we go? How long would we stay away? You start building this picture in your mind. And maybe you remember a trip that you had, and it's laying on that white sandy beach. You think, oh, that would be nice to do again. And so you build and you build and you build, and all of a sudden it becomes part of you, and you think about this all the time, and eventually it will unfold and will become a real part of you.
Like we talked a few days ago about how if you envision it clearly enough, your subconscious mind really can't tell the difference between what you're envisioning and what's happening, except that it's going, well, wait a second, where's my vision? Like, it's not here. I better do something about it.
Yeah. No, and
The
that's
the other concept, and because like it's all very well to talk about all the great things we can do and how much we can achieve and how great things are going, but I think it's also important to recognize that things don't always go the way you want. And you have a section about that in this chapter about the last door you tried, or you just call it the last door. But as I read through it, I went, yeah, this is, what if the last door you tried got slammed in your face?
yes, and that's where and I was. I put in a list of questions in the book to kind of I don't know, to re-trigger, because you will after a while, not after a while, but there will be events in your life that will cause you to fall off the wagon, if I can use that term. That will cause you to start to doubt your direction. You'll start to doubt, and sometimes it's external influences that cause that doubt. It's events that it's losing that sale, that you start to lose that confidence. And that's where a vision board, that's where we're starting to ask the basic questions. One of the things I've learned many, many years ago is you have these basic building blocks. And if you find you get off track, go back to the basic building blocks of why am I doing what I'm doing, and where do I want to be, and when do I want it? So what do you really want in life? So you go back to those basic building blocks and remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. And sometimes I know we don't like to look in the past, but I always keep track of my wins. Because if I'm feeling insecure, if I'm feeling that, oh, I don't know if I can do this, then I remember that speech I did in District 86 in front of 300 people, and they laughed and laughed. And I can do this. I can address that crowd again, or that sale I made, and that people send me notes of how great job I did. And so you have that collection of wins, your trophies, and think, hey, I can do this. This is just one more step towards where I want to go. So you need that reminder of what you really want and what you can do. And so
Sort of
yeah,
pushing past the
definitely.
as you spoke there, I was reminded of some training that I took a few years ago. This man was teaching us how to do door-to-door sales. Now, why anyone would want to do door-to-door sales, you might ask. But a friend of mine who was doing that said, look, if you don't think the door-to-door sales is something you can do, then you need to do it. So you can get better at it. And this man, his training was very interesting. He said, what I want you to do is go to the front door of your own house and have your wife stand on the other side of the door. And he says, knock on the door and she'll open the door and you start to deliver your presentation. And as soon as you hesitate, pause, or get it wrong, get her to slam the door in your face. And he said, the interesting thing is, your neighbors are going to wonder a little bit what's going on, like Martha, he's at it again, but he said, just do it. Just try this until you can go through your whole pattern perfectly without pausing, without hesitating, and doing it the way it is so that it's intentional. And so I started doing this with my wife, and she'd open the door and I'd start delivering my pattern, and she'd slam the door in my face. And so I'd knock on the door again and she'd open it and I'd start all over again and do the thing. About the 10th time she slammed the door in my face. She's waiting for the knock on the door and it never comes. So she opened up the door and there I was just sitting crouched over, killing myself laughing. And when I told the trainer about this, he says, that's exactly the way I hoped it would go. Because
Yeah.
he says, now, when you go out there knocking on doors and you're afraid of what's happening, what the person on the other side of the door is like, I want you to picture your wife there. And you may even chuckle a bit. And then when they open the door, it's going to be so much easier.
What a
And
great,
it's just to me, I've remembered that training. I wouldn't do door-to-door sales again for all the world, but I remember that training because it taught me about pushing past negative experiences
yeah.
and going on to success. And
Well,
so when I read that in your book, it just sort of jumped out at me.
what a great example. I had visions of the phone ringing. Oh, yes, bud. My wife won't let me in. You know, I forgot my lines.
Well, and again, I wonder what the neighbors were thinking, but you know.
but you hit it right on the head. And sometimes I've had clients, a young agent, say, "Oh, that's silly. That's stupid. Why would I do that?" But they're basically saying, I'm afraid, I'm feeling uncomfortable about this,
Yeah.
and that's when, like you say, you want to push past that. Yeah.
We talked to salespeople about the 500-pound phone.
Definitely.
Like, oh, I can't do this. I want to wrap up this chapter just talking about this idea of recharging the door.
Okay.
And that was sort of how you wrap things up in this. And I thought, okay, so we've got doors, we've got recharge, now we're going to mush them together. So tell me about this.
About recharging the door. I think we talked a bit about that. Did you have anything specific you were looking for on that? I think I talked a bit about the questions to ask, and about. I think I actually put 8 questions in the book, and where you're feeling kind of sluggish, and you start to ask the question. Let me just read a few of them, and one of them is do you have?
I'm going to suggest you just do 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And if people want the rest of the questions, they should get the book.
Awesome. And yeah, that's good. Well, question one we talked a bit about, and that is, do you have a crystal clear vision of what you want? And so not vague, it's not, I want to go on a trip. Like that's not it. Where do you want to go, and how do you want to go? Do you want to fly? Do you want to cruise? So that's what crystal clear is there. And you just talked about the door. Number 5 says, what are your excuses? The environment will cause excuses. So knocking on doors. Oh, it's raining out. It's too cold. It's too close to supper. All these things we create. Stop it. Just get out there and do it, even if it's only 2 doors or 2 things, or just push through. And so that's recharging your door. Definitely something that I think we all have to do, and we all want to do, to maintain that momentum to move ahead. Excellent.
I saw on Instagram a quote from Elon Musk, who is I think just today been named the wealthiest man in the world. I think he earned $2.3 billion a year over the last few years on average. So, and I mean, more money than anyone can reasonably use, but still, Elon Musk says, one of the things he says to himself at the beginning of each day is, what am I going to do today that is furthering me toward my goal?
Definitely.
And that's actually one of your questions. It's not phrased exactly that way, but I read that and I went, Elon Musk. So this is the most powerful way you can approach those doors that are obstructing you achieving your goals.
Right,
is to
right.
start asking yourself questions like you have in this book here.
Yeah.
So I really want to encourage people, get the book. This is a
Thank-
really, really powerful book that's going to help people to achieve their goals. We've been talking to Wayne Kuhn about this book, Recharge. And again, it's available on Amazon. But come back tomorrow as Wayne gives us the final chapter about his book, tells us a little bit about where where you should go with this and what you can do with it. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on this, Wayne, and
Good,
sharing that with our audience. And in the meantime, have a terrific day. Thanks for joining us today.
good. Thanks, Bud.
Listening to
And don't
Book.
forget to recharge. Take care.